Good evening, everyone. I have the lovely pleasure of introducing David Banach, and if I mispronounce your name, please absolutely correct me. David Banach is a New Hampshire philosopher and poet, though often not in that order. He is a pushcart, Best of the Net, and Forward Prize nominee, and editor of Touchstone, Journal of the Poetry Society of New Hampshire. David Banach, welcome to the stage.
What an honor to be introduced by Diannely. Thank you. This poem is called, What is a Person? A person is a center of rights, individual and an end in themselves, and they are born and they die, people living before them, lasting after them, born into a language, a world, a culture, already existing always, memories of a home that never was, and the way you can never imagine yourself into that nothing sandwich, into that you were not before your birth, the unthinking empty of a world going on without you. Where is my mother, my child? Where will you find me? And how can I be anything without the void, wound left in me as I look at you, your face, infinity opens up. My God, it's full of stars, reflected on the shine, the surface, keeping me out, but I owe it everything, you, everything. Take my hand, take the bread from my mouth, my home is yours. Substituted myself, drawn into you. A person is never just a person is. And I will sing of us, the we found under the face reflected in the water. Sing the depths unplumbed of naked need. Sing with me, our joint undoing. Dance the vulnerable body, hungry, naked, entered and left. We are together. I love you. You are a person. And loving you, I almost love myself. The sun sings, yellow leaf, blade, green shouts aloud in joy. We will die. But today we dance, hold my hand, finally knowing in unknowing what we are together. Dance with me.
Thank you, David. Our next reader is Diana Morrison Allen. Poet, author, and singer-songwriter Diana Morrison Allen was born in New York City and moved to Amherst in her teens, where she became swiftly enchanted by Emily Dickinson. A clinical nutritionist by day and recently fledged snowbird who winters in the California desert, Diana's musings can be found on her blog, oneboldcrone.com. Welcome, Diana, to the stage.
Thank you. It's an honor and a delight to be here tonight with you all in Emily Dickinson's garden. And I'm going to start off with a poem that takes place in another garden. It's called Eden is an Archetype. Eden is an archetype, the garden and the tree, the lure of rosy apples, the taste of knowledge sweet, the woman unsuspecting her bitterest consequence, vilified and blamed by man despite her innocence. Why not blame the serpent who tempted and deceived? Why not point the finger at the dad who made them leave? What kind of loving father, until eternity, punishes his children for curiosity? Who fashions perfect paradise, then takes it all away? What manner of omnipotence would not foresee the day when his own spitting image would seek to understand the purpose of awakening upon that blessed land, and having hence been banished, longs for it evermore? Eden is an archetype, our birthright to restore. This next poem was written recently, this past July, on the occasion of my 64th birthday. Thank you. It's one of a series I'm working on currently about downsizing, and it's called A Luna Moth Lives Only 7 Days. At 64, I finally let go of holding on to other people's memories, fruitless souvenirs, and waterlogged mementos of my prior younger self, a girl who no longer exists, like a shoe which no longer fits, a snug cocoon outgrown. No, at 64, I am a Luna moth, aware of precious time, loosening worn knots as cardboard boxes leave the house, gently packed with yellowing collected works and Irish plays, old jazz records once enjoyed with scotch on the rocks in hand, back in the days when mom and dad could stand to be together in a room with a hi-fi stereo, a room with a console TV, lined with colorful spines of books she'd read at 23, weathered tomes even then, collecting dust in my own library for years like mute and brittle artifacts shipwrecked in my care. I resign at 64 from that position. No longer do I wish to be the guardian of dreams. My goal is to release, not to hold on to. The remainder of my life belongs to me. Thank you, and in my short remaining time, I'll take us out with a brief ode to the season. Don't cling to summer. Don't cling to summer like an oak leaf to its twig, bitter, brown, and dry. Let autumn teach you the beauty in allowing, the freedom of releasing, the strength to let go. Thank you very much.
David and Diana, that was wonderful. It's my pleasure to introduce our next reader, Madelin A. Medina. Madelin A. Medina is a Dominican-American poet, fiction writer, recipient of the Nancy P. Schneider Academy of American Poets Award, and is based in New York. Her work has appeared in the Accentos Review, Pank Magazine, Just Above Water, a YA anthology, and elsewhere. Madelin?
Good evening, everyone. I just would like to thank the Dickinson Museum for selecting me tonight. My first poem I've chosen is a dedication to my grandmother. Fruit. Abuelita came with a knife, then held me carefully in her calloused canvas hands. Slowly and with the skill of her years, she peeled my skin from me, placing the winding shavings on the counter beside the sink. Mija, she said to me softly, I will show you that the thickness and pigment aren't really much. When she had finished taking the scars and burns from childhood and the toughening skin of my own palms and soles of my feet, she split me, first into halves, then quarters, and finally into eighths. I will show you there is more than one side to a self. She took from me language, the continents of my descent, patria, sex, and God. She rid the juice of pulp and placed aside the seeds. When all was laid before me, she spoke, you will see now, mija, you will see now. The following poem is entitled, The Invocation. Your ancestors call you by a name you must answer to. They call out to you on their knees, their hands clasped in pleas and not in prayer. entrusting you with the task to unlearn the lie of the curse and the redemption, to uproot the tree they sow that's only given rotting fruit. Your ancestors call you by a name you must answer to. They'll instruct you to slip out of your skin a garment only worth its seams, its satin lining adorned in ideology. Then lead you to till their septic land and, in good faith, to bleed yourself into the earth until it is imbued with you. Your ancestors call you by a name you must answer to. They'll swaddle you in a sweet, silent psalm, and from you will come the seedling, the deeply rooted tree from which you'll reap your ancestors like newly fallen fruit, from which you'll inherit their voices to invoke them, to bear witness when they christen you. They'll call you by your name, the only name you must answer to. My final poem is very meaningful to me because the last line was written a year ago in Emily Dickinson's bedroom. So here we go. What haunts remains. I once bore witness to the death of a memory, thought time would be lenient and steadfast had I kept it safely. Yet nature reclaimed all that was entrusted to be theirs. The swarm of ants that fed upon sepia photographs denied themselves no nourishment. They made a feast of them. My mother, sisters, and brothers ate from their paper flesh. I've held no funerals for those who've died twice, no bodies to bury nor to mourn. Their ghosts now haunt the blades of grass. Thank you.
It's wonderful. Thackery Prince is a local poet who tends to write between tours. He's giving at the Emily Dickinson Museum. His debut poetry book, Inside Voices, will be released this December. Please welcome Thackery Prince.
Oh, I'm short too, so that works. Okay. So my introduction was a lot shorter than everyone else's, and that's because this is my first open mic, and my first poetry collection is being released in December on Emily's birthday. I was originally going to use this time to read some poems from my book, which is a collection of poetry written by characters that I've been writing on Tumblr and Facebook and all sorts of other things since I was 11 years old. But then I had the worst month of my life. And this poem came to me instead, and so instead of using the shield of the characters that I've written for so long, I am here on Emily's property where I have Emily, when I never have anything else, talk as myself and tell you some things about myself. My safe word is recluse. The definition of a safe word is a word or phrase that's agreed upon ahead of time to indicate a need for immediate action. Stop. It means stop. It's a word that means stop, more specifically, make it stop. My safe word is recluse. It should be a word that you don't like to say, they say. It should be a silly, slippery, unwelcome slew of syllables that rarely leaves your tongue, they say. It should be odd. It should be overly and entirely, in every situation, out of place. This prevents miscommunication. This prevents mistakes. My safe word is recluse because Emily Dickinson wasn't one, at least not to me. And yes, that's my opinion. I guess you don't have to agree with me. You're not required. But I digress. My safe word is recluse. And I wonder, as I wander these grounds, if Emily Dickinson ever felt like me, if she ever felt too much, if she ever felt too easily like me. I cannot sleep, you see. There is no moment above earth that I do not think of you, dream of you. There is no sleep when it comes to you. There is only loving. There is only living with you. The cavity of my heart sits bare, exposed and open. It longs for the moments that you enter it warm and wet and wanton and with me. And recluse. I wonder if Emily couldn't sleep because she was haunted by a divine intervention like me. if she couldn't bear the most basic of disappointments, if every heartbreak felt like heart rape, and if every burst of happiness was equal parts radiant and terrifying, because she never knew when the moment would come when it would just be something to lose. That moment when she would never be, could never be, the one to choose. Recluse. My claws sink deep in the flesh of everything of my happiness and tend to pierce as they become tighter, and it is without the intention to scare. It is simply, I swear, because I care so much. Recluse. The woman in white who cares too much, no kingdom, no heir, no crown, nor court, odd and silly and somber in a way, never leaving her room, that is a typical recluse. And that is the Emily that we know, and I wonder if Emily embraced this on purpose, as a self-made shield from the judgment of a heart that deemed by others was too open, of a mind that was deemed too different, of an unfortunate wrench in the typical scape of society from all of its obscene normality. My safe word is recluse, and I think perhaps Emily's safe world was too.
A little taller. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this, but that's okay. Our next reader is Tracy Zumbahlen. As a nature lover and moon enthusiast, I love that. Tracy Zumbahlen is grateful to share some words in great company. As a Connecticut resident, the twists and turns of awe are plenty. Welcome, Tracy.
Thank you so much. This is such a joy to be among such brave poets and heartfelt writers. And this poem is called On Belay, and it comes from a few years ago. I heard an interview with Nikki Giovanni, and it was with a bookshop in Philadelphia called Harriet's Bookshop. And the premise was really interesting. It was the owner of the bookshop would cook something, make a meal, and so would whoever she would interview. And she interviewed her at the same time they were both making meals. I just found it so interesting. The main ingredient that she just wanted to really stand out was water, and how it carries so much of an influence for all of the flavors and just the consciousness of water. So this poem is called On Belay. Don't look down at first, the guide told me as I donned gloves and grit and then began rehearsing what it's like to open and close at will in water, just like springtime, which nobody has ever abandoned. Yet I was such a winter girl, happy, always happy with silence and solace. Now on belay on Costa Rican rock, my skin unprepared for sunshine's pure life. Just as spring carries beauty, never gripping a palm, but widening like grief, in hips and hands, where gliding is a necessary dalliance, meant surely for water. I didn't look down at first, only to apply pressure, fingers laced, before slipping into ecstasy. Suddenly, I noticed the hanging became safer than the holding. Safer than the holding. While on belay, my heart turned loose and stilled, such sweetness as in the womb. When we could be water, we could turn into anything, Nikki Giovanni said in an interview. Weren't we all once water? I imagined her remembering herself as river, as stream, as ocean, seated in a chair at the time. Not if, but when we were water, she promised. And so I let go into fear, which is only water after all, rock, rhythm, line, tension, and surprisingly spring. Thank you.
Alrighty, wow. Such beautiful poems this evening, right? Oh, I feel so blessed and honored. Our next reader is Aimee Swift. Aimee Swift spends her time working with animals as an energy healer and walking with her dog Tootsie along the banks of the Mill River. She is currently on submission with her debut middle grade novel and has always enjoyed writing poems as little treasures for herself. Welcome, Aimee.
It's really amazing to be here in Emily's garden. Really special. I own these trees. I lurk in these woods. I see everything that moves. It is I that am not seen by you. I do not run in fear. I stalk, I prowl through here. I am one with the rustling leaves, the bark, the branches. I own these trees. This next poem is called I'll Ride Your Fell Pony, and it's a poem that my dad, who passed away 3 years ago this month, always said, you should do something with that poem. Anyway, this is for you, Dad. I'll ride your fell pony. We'll journey for miles, he and I, up and down hills, through wind and rain and thorny briars, eager to huddle together in the shelter of hemlocks to rest, steam rising from his sides, his breath warm against my flushed cheeks. We'll gallop gleefully across meadows in glorious sunshine, bareback under blue sky, my hair blowing out behind. I'll hang on laughing as his playful bucks nearly unseat me, and when he tires, slide down, drape against him while he grazes the lush grass. I'll give him his head as we enter the cool dark of the old-growth forest, shady with the dappling of leaves. Let him take me where he likes, my bare legs wrapped tight around his barrel, fingers entwined in his shaggy mane. I'll lie back against him and listen to his hooves fall quiet on the soft loam as he wends his way onward, till finally the trees thin, and through the prick of his ears I'll see where he's brought me, a narrow strip of land lacing the sparkling sea. As his nostrils quiver in the salt air, I'll step off and stand beside him. And when your fell pony buckles his knees, I'll join him, and we'll roll over and back again in the warm sands. But he'll scramble to his feet when he hears your call, and I'll rush to mount him for the last time, reach my hand down to meet his soft muzzle before he carries me to the deep, before the water's edge looms close and the waves crash around us, before, when we reach you, all that's left are two sand angels beneath the setting sun. These next few little poems are, I call them poetic impressions. They're from my collection called Many Moons. And each poem, they're tiny, is really just a particular poem, particular moon on a particular night. Peach moon. If I could pluck that perfect peach from the bough of night, I would slice it into succulent sections and feast on its lunar flesh till daybreak. Swan moon. The moon slips silent through the night sky, slow in her solitude, soaring like a swan over a great dark lake. Early morning moon. A pale ghost haunts the powder blue sky, wispy like a breath puffed out in cold air. Watermelon moon. Fuzzy lemon wedge, little watermelon moon, so discreet in winter sky, 8 hours past noon. Moon candy. Moonsucker, pink over black balding hills. Thank you.
my great pleasure to introduce Jennifer Franklin. Jennifer Franklin will be presenting tomorrow's workshop, I'm Afraid to Own a Body, continuing Dickinson's legacy of braving the body. She has published 3 poetry collections, including If Some God Shakes Your House. Her work has been published widely, including in American Poetry Review, Bennington Review, The Nation, and the Paris Review. She teaches in Manhattanville's MFA program and in the Hudson Valley Writers Center, where she serves as program director. Please welcome Jennifer Franklin.
Thank you so much, Oliver, and thank you, Brooke and Anna, for this. Let me see if I can move it up a little. It's all right, Jennifer. It's getting you just fine. Oh, it's getting me? Okay, great. I'm going to read 3 short poems from my first 2 books, and they're all inspired by Emily Dickinson. The first one is called Daughter. Hollow as a gilded reliquary, I am everyone's receptacle of secrets. I hold each lie and confession like saints' clavicles and vertebrae. Transparent, I display the treasures I am trusted to safekeep. They do not expect me to judge or offer. To them, I am flat as a fresco, unremarkable face emerging from cerulean and gold. I belong to those who underestimate me. The stars squint in the dormant sky. I continue to know everything. They do not understand. I can undo them all. Hypocrites, charlatans, hypochondriacs. Each secret is the same secret. They want me symmetrical, endorsing their desires. I am the unloved necessity. I am the quiet in a hall when the music ceases. Someday, I will surprise them with opacity. I will whisper my transgressions into the wide mouths of poppies. They will be my secrets. I will frighten them with telescope, sleeping bats, all the unsealed letters and artless glances, the mirrors I have gathered. And this one is called In Father's House. And there's a series in this book about women who lived in their father's house for most of their lifetime. Jane Austen and Lucia Joyce and Virginia Woolf, and this one is the Dickinson. In Father's House. 2 choices: live with what we are given, give ourselves what we want to live. I have my body paired with heather ground, my window nook, and the chance to deny what I see. In bed, away from them, I curl myself cold and twisted, creating you. The way your breath tastes, the nonchalance of your hand smoothing wood, demure lips wide and pouting. You could never measure up if I got you for myself, to chase me over moors with my fantasies and dogs. And this last one is from my book, No Small Gift. And it's using quotes from some of Dickinson's 3 master letters. It's called Open Your Life Wide and Take Me In Forever. All I want is for you to come back to my unlocked door, or I could live in your attic room and be no trouble. I will never be tired. Remember when I was with you, I wanted nothing and needed little money. I will never be noisy. My old dresses felt like gowns when you spoke. The rooms in the red house were crooked and leaked. From a hole in the ceiling, smoke choked me, but I was content. I want to bake bread for you or spend the day typing manuscripts until dusk descends on your garden. I will be quiet, no bother. When you want to be still, I will be. Most of the time, you will forget I am there, except when I sit at your knee, listening to you shape the world into words. Nobody else will see me but you, but that is enough. I keep the letters you sent me in a wooden box. I shall not want any more. When I am alone, I hold them, how you will never hold my face. Thank you.
amazing work. It is my pleasure to introduce Michael Favala Goldman. Michael Favala Goldman lives in Northampton, where he has been running poetry critique groups since 2018 in collaboration with Straw Dog Writers Guild and the Northampton Center for the Arts. His newly released 8th book of poetry is titled We Are More Than Just This. Check out his website at michaelfavalagoldman.com. Please welcome Michael Favala Goldman.
Thank you, and good evening, everyone. Luthier's Co-op, Bar and Restaurant, St. Patrick's Day. The place is deserted at 6:30 when we arrive to set up, microphones and instruments on the cramped stage, flanked by congas and amps, vintage guitars hanging on all the walls. They've renovated since last time, so we stash our instrument cases by the parts and repair counter and our jackets in one of the new booths with the red and blue table lanterns. By 7, people arrive. I'm in my brightest green t-shirt, my life is good baseball cap sitting on my imported German stool, with our trumpeter and pianist to my left, our bassist to my right, the drums directly behind me, making me wonder about earplugs. After a couple of sound checks and a martini for the trumpeter, we launch into Now's the Time, which also happens to be the name of our jazz combo. The notes jump off the stage into the lights, which make everything else too dark to discern, except for a pair of women off to the left. Steven, our sound man, knows his stuff, and the balance is good, though I still have a bit too much of drums, which is not his fault. The applause after each tune is more than polite, as is our playing, since we are the only band tonight, extending our solos to stretch our sets and our creativity. A few times, Bill pounds the keys rhythmically, making me nearly fall off my stool. John thrums his bass to the melody line of Cheesecake. And the notes dive down close to where my soul resides. Chris both drives us with his sticks and chases us when the two-headed train of Jay on trumpet and me on clarinet start hurtling up and down our arpeggios. When the horns come back in at the B section of Dippermouth Blues, the band has somehow managed to sound like 20 pieces instead of 5, a solid wall of charging music, tones and overtones, as if New Orleans suddenly came loose and was bearing down on all of us, about to capsize, while the music is keeping us afloat, plays us while we play it. The energetic momentum, actual joy. An involuntary grin on my face at the end of the tune. A surprised explosion of whoops from the applauding audience. Who didn't know that was about to happen? That we were all about to forget ourselves. Buoyed by liberation, years of discipline, an invitation, a venue, a reason to be one specific place at one moment in time. Thank you.
So fun. I loved that. Thank you, Michael. We have another Michael. Michael Medeiros is a writer and artist living in Western Massachusetts. A graduate of the UMass Amherst Creative Writing Program, MFA program, he is currently in the UMass Studio Arts MFA program, where his focus is on community-based public art, ceramics, and developing curricula that teach mindfulness and flourishing concepts through arts and writing foundations classes. Please welcome Michael.
Stage is like a basketball court. It's huge. I wish I had a clarinet. I feel like I'm failing you now. All I have is a poem. But my God, do you all feel like tonight, like that Emily Dickinson poem, like I heard a fly buzz when I died? But it's like I felt the mosquitoes suck my blood away while I was listening to a poem. And I feel like I've been looking at that like ductwork over there, and I think they're all heading there and heading straight to her cemetery, and they're gonna revitalize her for the Saturday night event with our blood. So we're gonna be part of Emily Dickinson in about like 12 hours. It's really cool. This is kind of a weird poem. It was if any of you know like Dick Dale, the king of the surf guitar, he was like my hero. And he died one day. And he's gone forever, so that fits well with this Emily Dickinson vibe. But for some reason, it tied me back to when I used to sit up in Emily's cupola looking out on the town and looking at sunsets and things like that. If you ever get the chance to do that, do it. But this is a 5-part poem called Dick Dale. Last time the moon was eclipsed, we tried to watch it from Emily Dickinson's cupola windows. All we saw were trees and a little bit of moon glow before it darkened. We went downstairs and out, but couldn't see anything but from the garden either. We went back up and saw the glow fattening like a ghost on the panes. 2. The bridge to Turner's Falls on the Deerfield River is the best place to see the July 4th fireworks. Its paving is rutted and frost-heaved. Leaning on the rutted railing, I think about being in England a few weeks earlier, leaning on the green railing of a bridge over the River Ouse in Lewis, where the good bookstores are. 3. Oh, I'm switching. Virginia Woolf drowned herself in the River Ouse. Death is all around us on Middlemarch days. 2 hearses going west and east on I-90 during the daylight hours, bookending a week. Dick Dale died the night before St. Patrick's Day. The king of the surf guitar will never play the Iron Horse again on an East Coast trip before heading west and home. He was born near Boston, then went to California and surfed. I bet the waves he would have kicked up on the Ouse would have swept the White Hart Hotel off its Lewis foundations and down into the chalky sea, the old concrete deer on the roof rolling white with the waves in the moonlight. 4. Thomas Paine talked politics at the White Hart Hotel, ditched England and came to America for the fight. The White Hart shower heads, in one room at least, are patch-wrapped with duct tape. $89 a night gets you a small pool and a shared patio. Sneak upstairs and you can walk the wooden room where Paine and the Headstrong Club met. 5. Take the train from Lewis south to Brighton, and you're there at the ornate station in half-hour tops. If you go on a bank holiday, mostly the guys will be screaming drunk and picking fights in the streets on a stag do. The women will be too. Theirs is a hen do. Later on, they'll marry. If you've got time, stop at the Chalk Cliffs in Seaford on the way back. At night, under the moon, it's like the hills are ghosts. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you, Michael, for the comedy and the poetry. Appreciate it. I, too, forgot my instrument this evening. I used to play flute in a church band. Didn't bring it this evening, y'all. Maybe next time. Our next poet is Monica Perez-Nelson. Monica Perez-Nelson is a Filipina-American poet who is working on a collection that explores grief, the nature of time, relationships, and experiences of immigrants. She comes back to writing after a long dormancy and is a mother of 2, as well as a health policy lawyer who handles data and AI issues. Welcome, Monica.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. And I also just wanted to note that my 10-year-old and my 13-year-old are watching on Zoom. This is their first poetry reading. And my 9-year-old had like his vision of me as a poet, like he really wanted me to wear my fedora for the reading. I'm kind of regretting that I didn't listen to him. But anyways, hi Sebastian, hi Dominic. My first poem is entitled Placing Dishes Before My Children. Light brown wisps cover my infant's soft skull. Eyes greenish, skin pink, then pale, pale like his father, but it will turn out that the baby's pale skin doesn't burn as mine doesn't. We're of two countries. The first, islands sparkling in the sun, but bloody gnashing of a colony. Then here, where no one in its old memory has a face like mine, my family's lines not tender fed in its soil. My children eat hamburgers, but how to eat of the land where I was born? Its trauma and revolution, the buoyancy, the making do, the art of it. Grit and pieties that are old, ancestral. For my children to feel this country in their fight and the pits of their stomachs, to know my great-grandfather led guerrilla fighters in the jungle. Are they strangers to what is in their blood? Restless, but for this clockwork of tables, set by 100 titas, the aunties, lumpia in tidy rows and glistening stews, the tangy adobo, grilled fish, bones still in, recall an afternoon eating by the sea. Take and eat, each bite of rice and fish soaked in soy sauce mixed with garlic, vinegar, a bit of calamansi, perfection. There are no banana leaves at this table, but it summons to dinner time in the barangay, village, barrio. Dusk fallen, street vendors barbecue pork. Mothers cook in the kitchens, windows open, steaming food, and relief that another bone-weary day of work is through under the too heavy tropical air. This next poem is entitled After the 9-Week Sonogram. Not the beauty of the aerial views of Dutch tulips with rosy twilight hues. It's the Faroe Islands and a dark scarlet tide crashing. 100 dolphins slaughtered, remnants in the waves. The flush of reds, pink roses and lilies crowding my rooms, my windowsills. I have never had so many bouquets. The flowers will die in a week. I could breathe in your newborn skin, that scent. Feeding, we supplant night and day with our rhythm. Each eyelash comes in, I am always marveling. I chase your small body, bare feet in the shallows. To walk the shore with you over again, to see, in your face, the prior and future faces. Blood red, blood flushed, the infinite wrenched from a hollow within me, a rebuttal to love's vastness. A heart circles round this failure stop. Some moments, a crested wave breaks, me to my knees. Thank you all so much.
That was wonderful. And our last reader, Janae Harley. Janae is a writer who writes nonfiction, short stories, and poetry. And in her spare time, you can find her reading books at a local coffee shop, in the park, or at the beach soaking up the sun. Sounds great. Please welcome Janae Harley.
Hey, good evening, everyone. I'm just going to share one poem tonight. The title is called A Clock Never Counts Backwards. The morning of it all, I did not see any sunlight. There I was, at the foot of the casket, calling for you to look up, pinching myself, hoping to wake up from this nightmare on Elm Street. There was never tears, just a pending closure. With a heart full of doubt, how do I move on from this grief? The pictures I held seemed to come alive again, remembering those moments of happiness, the quiet before the storm. We really never know what's wrong until London Bridge falls. Watching my father live out his last 7 months after his diagnosis made me realize that life is a shortcoming. On the days he cried, waiting for death, I watched as his eyes were filled with guilt and regret. I tried my best to make those last 7 months his best, covering up all his mistakes and regrets, trying to protect what he had left. To my surprise, a box filled with nothing, not even dust. Father did not leave a legacy, only a mess that I was stuck left to fix. Even after 4 years, I still do not know what closure is. He left behind too many lies and dark secrets. However, I won't be tying up his loose ends. I have my own life to live that will not be filled with shortcomings. I know that when it is my time to go, I will not beg death for an additional day. I will allow death to hold my hand and take my soul. I shall not be afraid. I know I will go to a place of peace with well-deserved rest. Sleep is the cousin of death. Death is not the enemy. I do not dare to ask how long. I will accept my fate with no mistakes or regrets. In retrospect, I will accept death as an accomplishment for those who did not die happy. I will die happy for them. I will leave a mark that my father could not make. I will show people that your box does not have to be left empty. Thank you.
Official bio. Thank you, Brooke. Because I was going to read Diannely's long-ass bio, man. I mean, it's long. Because, it's befitting of a poet of her stature. Diannely is a Dominican-American poet and educator born and raised in Massachusetts. Her debut collection, Ugly Music from Yes Yes Books, was the winner of the Pamet River Prize and a 2020 Whiting Award. Her second poetry collection, Good Monster, is here from Copper Canyon Press. And she hosts the podcast Bread and Poetry. She is formerly, it says that you're currently the Poet Laureate of Portsmouth, but you are formerly the Poet Laureate of Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and a hell of a good Poet Laureate, if I might add. And she is the youngest person of color to receive the title. About Diannely's work, I find her work to be extraordinary and fierce and powerful. And what she does with the sonnet in this latest book of poems is extraordinary. She turns these brief moments of introspection into these powerful and magical moments that expand the size of the sonnet into the stratosphere. So please welcome Diannely Antigua.
Wow. Thank you so much, Oliver. What a generous and lovely intro. Thank you. Since we're on the Emily Dickinson property, I felt like I should read an Emily Dickinson poem to start off. One of my favorites, Wild Nights, Wild Nights. I also wore a Wild Nights shirt today. And this is for OBB. Wild nights, where I with thee wild nights should be our luxury. Futile the winds to a heart in port, done with the compass, done with the chart. Rowing in Eden, ah, the sea, might I but more tonight in thee. Oh, Emily. Oliver and I got a beautiful tour of Emily Dickinson's house and also the Evergreens, and I just could feel like her energy everywhere, and it was just so lovely to feel that presence. I'm going to read some poems from both Ugly Music and Good Monster. I thought I would start with one from Ugly Music. I wanted to just give a brief content warning for suicidal ideation, domestic violence, sexual abuse, religious abuse. So please do take care of yourselves as you see fit. Re-education. I listen to podcasts to learn about feminism, watch porn to make sure I'm doing it right. I dance on the bar because coyote ugly, because these shoes and this drink. I'm almost 30, and I still think Bloody Mary is a game with a mirror. Sometimes she appears at 2 a.m., sometimes she's in the toilet, piss reflection before the flush. There is a truth in this magic. The time I took Plan B, then the other time I took Plan B, I bled for 2 months. There could have been a mother in me. And I told no one except the man at Tacos Lupita who asked what I wanted in my burrito, and I think I said, baby. I think I spun around 3 times and whispered a name. And there was no floor when I fell. When a queen flew from my womb, there was glass and napkins and the doctor saying, wake up, wake up. Feel free to snap or clap or ooh or boo me, whatever you want. No need to keep silent. As I like to say, do as the spirit of poetry moves you to do. Yeah, I grew up in a church and we were always making noises. Yeah, I figured maybe I'll read that poem. It's called The Day of Pentecost. And for those who are not aware, the day of Pentecost was the day when the disciples received the gift of speaking in other tongues or the Holy Ghost. And this was after Jesus had resurrected. Day of Pentecost. It was August in Canada when it happened. They told me if I prayed, it would come like a flame on my tongue. I was 10, almost 11. I want to say I remember the smell of the sisters, their breath in my ear as they prayed. Their little wails placed their hands on my back, on my pink flowered dress. I want to say I was sweating as the beads turned white on my skin, toes slick, slipping in my heels. I want to say I got the Holy Ghost to a vertical horizon song. Not the guitar, not the singers in the sanctuary. Maybe it was the song best I ever had, my Walkman low on batteries, still on the ride from Haverhill. I want to say I was crying about a boy, or about the hole in my nylons, or my dirty city sneaks. I want to understand why my tongue moved, and a voice came out, and the voice said nothing, like something important. Maybe Shamala, 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 hi. And maybe that meant save me, or leave me, or maybe it was make me disappear. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Oliver, for mentioning my sonnets. Both of us are lovers of sonnets. And during my thesis semester at NYU, I had the privilege of going to NYU Florence and spending my semester there. And I had just recently been broken up with. And I had finished my thesis, really, so I decided to embark on a whole new project of just writing breakup sonnets the entire time, which was like, this is Italy. This is the best place to do it. And I wrote 25 breakup sonnets over the course of those 3 months. And I lovingly called them sad girl sonnets. So this is sad girl sonnet number 1. Even in the most beautiful city, you can still be sad as fuck. There is the Duomo Palazzo Vecchio, and the waiter from the bar downstairs who shouts "Bella" as you pass. I've been eating Doritos on the couch again. I've been blocking out my noise. Watching QVC in Italian, I want to buy useless shit even more. The way the woman describes the sweater, lunghi, taglia, nero, I need it. I need someone to say, fall in love, fall for the city, fall on your hands and knees and suck your fingers for practice. Last month, was there a hidden grace to peeing with the door open? He said he liked to watch, and now no one sees me lift up the seat and hover over the bowl. Every city has a sewer. Yes, indeed, every city has shit underground, no matter how beautiful it is. Okay. I have another series of poems in my book called Another Poem About Blank, but really it's about me. And granted, aren't all poems kind of about the poet anyways, in a way? I have one called Another Poem About God, but really it's about me. Another poem about an ex, but really it's about me. And this one is called Another Poem About Nature, but really it's about me. And this one has insects in it, so I thought it'd be very fitting for this evening's, for the mosquitoes. Another poem about nature, but really it's about me. I'm not used to all this nature. The robin and the blue jay perch on the railing outside my window while I sip coffee. The centipede scurries in the sink next to the dirty spoon. I leave the birds alone, but the centipede has to go. So I name it Ben after one of my exes and drown it. Send it down the drain. All exes live there, down the drain where they've crawled out of the pipe sludge to the clean stainless steel of the undermount sink. By the way, this is a borrowed kitchen. By the way, this is a borrowed life. I don't belong in a log cabin in the woods where the squirrels are actually startled. I want the don't give a fuck attitude of a New York squirrel, eating from the palms of whoever has something to give. The leftover crumbs from the morning's bacon, egg, and cheese, or the last bit of falafel dipped in hummus from Mamoun's. But wasn't that a borrowed life, too? I was supposed to be a preacher's wife, skirt to my ankles, Bible in my purse. And I was supposed to be a mother. The doctors don't know if this body can cradle the egg before it's flushed. And I'm not supposed to be jealous of the birds or the squirrel or the drowned centipede, how easy it was to blame it and then let the water run. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to do two more for you, two sonnets. One of them is a sad girl sonnet. Sad girl sonnet number 10. I've only been away for a month, and already 3 men, 2 pills, 2 countries to watch me swallow. I let myself sing a sad song in the shower today. Toni Braxton's Unbreak My Heart, soap trailing down my legs. I shave my armpits while I cry, feeling for the bumps, a kindness to my most neglected. No one loves an ingrown. When I was 11, my mother hid the razors, hid me from the men outside, forgetting the one who shared her bed. I pressed the blade down to remind myself I could be alive if I try hard enough. My mother says, "Ma pa'lante hay gente," and yes, there are more people ahead to do damage. What is it to be unbroken? I uncry, I unsex, I unbecome this. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So I have one last poem for you. It's also a sonnet, however, not a sad girl sonnet, but it doesn't matter. I'm still obsessed with sonnets. And this is called Wanting, and this is after Marie Howe. Wanting. I want to write about joy. I decide this when I sit down at my desk, the overwatered succulents lining the perimeter. I don't understand the ratio of plant to water to dirt, so I drown them in what I think is needed. I'm always drowning things, apparently, just always. And as a person who doesn't know how to swim, just always drowning things. Anyways, I digress. So I drown them in what I think is needed. I forget sun. I forget patience. I try to forget the look death makes, the haworthia, the snake plant, my grandmother, the dog. I wanted to write about joy. Everything is pale. Outside, winter persists even though it's May. A lover once told me he believed in the risk of joy and used it to explain away the kiss on my neck. He's married now, the risk of joy tattooed on the right side of his own neck, his new wife's name on the left. My friend said, I dodged a bullet with that one. I say, I would have opened my chest to it. Thank you so much. It is my pleasure to introduce Oliver de la Paz. Oliver de la Paz is the author and editor of several books and serves as the Poet Laureate of Worcester, Massachusetts. His latest collection of poetry, The Diaspora Sonnets, someone also loves sonnets here, was published by Liveright Press in 2023. It was a winner of the 2023 New England Book Award and was longlisted for the 2023 National Book Award, which is huge. A founding member of Kundiman, he teaches at the College of the Holy Cross and in the low residency MFA program at PLU. And you can learn more about Oliver at oliverdelapaz.com. Oliver. It's just been a privilege to be able to do numerous events with you, Oliver. We've had readings together, panels together about neurodivergency. We're going to do a panel tomorrow about poets of the public and being poet laureates. And it's been an honor to get to know you through your work, but also through your work in your community, which is great and which is lovely. And I so appreciate what you do with the sonnet form as well, how you weave this narrative, tell your story, and tell a lot of our stories too through your diaspora sonnets. And I feel like I don't think I've ever been or have felt so seen in a sonnet than when I've read your work, Oliver. Please help me welcome Oliver de la Paz.
Hello. So, how's everybody doing? Good? So the first poem I'm going to read is off of my phone because I'm young. Thank you. Michael Mercurio and Diannely encouraged me to read a poem about werewolves. So I'm going to read a poem about werewolves. I mean, and it's also like Target putting all the Halloween stuff up ahead of time, so it's just kind of like that, even though we're still here in September. Wolf Boy. The moon tugs at its black leash, and pockets of dew thicken the grass tips. Everything is blue. The meadow ripe with leaves blown from the periphery. Instinct threads the skin of the boy as he strips the tufts of fur splintering through his cotton t-shirt, and the deer are startled into their sinewy gait. Hollow sounds, a cry from the chest where the hunger lives. The boy will enter the new world through his eye tonight. Afraid of his flushed skin, the blood rising like the cherry red tip of a cigarette pulled towards the mouth with each deep breath. But he is even more afraid of the dark space of memory. A flash of speed, wind on his face from some dream, and the cooled coppery taste pressed against his tongue and the roof of his mouth. The wild is fierce with memory, and his ears tilt to the soft pad of his paws against the village cobbles and the darkened cottages whose roofs blossom with potential accident. To be one with accident as to be one with God. To be God is to love the sudden solitude of night when the sleeves of the once body yields to the muzzle's soft kiss and the wet nap of a licked burr nestled into a muddy coat. Oh, meadow, meadow. How the moon's beautiful swell nails everything into place. The tooth's glory plunged deep into the evening's bruise. The throat heavy with the hound's velvet no. So, as poet laureate, you're supposed to write occasional verse and happy poems, but I am not that poet. Just want to let you know ahead of time. I should have let the Worcester Cultural Committee know that, so this is just a precursor, just a heads up that I write about violence. I write about political violence and the violence done to those who cannot do anything for themselves. And this next poem is a poem that's influenced by the Ektved girl who was pushed into a bog and preserved, and she's mummified. And some say that she was murdered. Some conjecture that she was pushed in. So this is a poem about that. Nocturne with the mummified remains of a girl pulled from a bog, after the Ektved girl in Denmark. It is a difficult thing, the skin and the skin's new form, and how what's missing grows large, as if the source of something that once drew warmth had poured out the sack of the body, filled with sawdust and sewn up. The knot of fingers folded into a bramble fence, soft tissue stiffened to the texture of a ballet slipper, and the elegant foot somehow gone from its housing. Here is where the slippage of selves floats its weight into the deep swales of summer. The nights are warm, and the sphagnum hushes every sound. Its density troubles the landscape with thatches, pockets, small underpinnings, indeterminacies. The bowl at the center of the bog, deep enough to cover a man from head to toe in sludge. And the frogs call their soft songs to find each other in the fog. The frogs stir from deep within the mist and confuse themselves with their sound. A singular hum, a singular engine with the sole industry of determining love. Love, love, they say. Their white throats fire their outbursts. It is easy to lose yourself among the singers and the dark. And this is how to begin. Softly, the foot presses against the wet, dark peat. Softly, the curses of breath rise up from the breastbone and to the mouth, the acidic grit of bog's dark jade. Into the nose, the terrible intercessions of muck rushing past the septum, into the throat and down, further down, and from the mind, the bright lariats of holly around a table, the faces of family heavenward, lit by the last auroras of something, a memory pressed against a monstrous glass. It is here where the body resides and the skin empties its contents. The skin hardened into a pouch. The pouch, which was once a girl, holds nothing but the tragedy of love, the tragedy of beautiful breaths taken and swallowed and sung. I'd like to say that the poems get lighter, but they do not. Although, this is a little lighter. So I purchased a house with my wife in Washington, Western Washington, and it was a beautiful house that was adjacent to property that was owned by the Department of Natural Resources in Washington. So we bought the house, forests everywhere, and then not a year into our owning of the house, DNR clear cut all 42 acres behind our house. We were mad. But this is a poem about that and about something else. Meditation with smoke and flowers. It is Monday and I'm not thinking of myself. My son asleep in his stroller. The dark conifers holding nothing but their scent. I'm walking him to the place where the loggers have cleared 30 acres, leaving only ash and stripped tree limbs. The light now comes to the places once dark and now wildflowers, where once the moss grew thick and complete. The flame of something around the corner, and I'm thinking of the wild tiger lilies that line this gravel road below my house. They clump together, their stems bent down from the weight of their flowers. How mouth-like they are, and how their speechlessness makes the road quieter. Each flower is a surprise, like the flaming tip of cigarettes in the dark. I think that the road cannot contain all of these mouths, though there are mythologies held in check by the tongue. Like the story my father told me about his father in wartime, and how his own father forced him, with the threat of a beating, to go under the house for a cigarette from a Japanese foot soldier bunkered down. I can see my father's small, trembling hand outstretched to this man, whose face is mud-caked, smelling slightly of fire and lubricant for his rifle. The smoke from the soldier's own cigarette takes the shape of the underside of the house, and I imagine my father can hear his own father above him pacing. But this road now is free of smoke. The logging trucks have taken off for the night, and the tree remnants have smoldered into nothing but charcoal. The wreck of everything is a vacuum. So too, the wreck of a village after a war, or the floorboards above a son's head in fear of his own father. Here, though, there is nothing to fear. The wheels of the stroller on gravel is the only sound, and the idleness of the excavation trucks hearkens to someone asleep in the uneasy dark. No, I am not thinking of myself. I'm thinking of an agreement my father made with himself years ago when the houses were burning into bright bouquets in the nighttime. Perhaps he swore he would not beat his own son, while somewhere in the afterlife his own father smokes and paces. Perhaps there are no flowers in that place. Perhaps the lone soldier, through with hiding, crawled out after the guns had stopped and dusted himself off, the sun striking his face with its unreasonable light. I'm thinking of my son, asleep, and of the wild tiger lilies, how frail they are in the new light, why they come, why they spring up unannounced as suddenly as the promises we make with ourselves when we are young. So I'm going to read, how much time do I have? I'm going to read 3 poems from here, short sonnets, and then I'm going to close with a newish poem. This book is predominantly about the travels of my family after 1972 when we fled from the Philippines after martial law. My family was blacklisted by the Marcos regime, mostly because my uncle was, and you know something about this, my uncle was one of the students who was protesting the regime. And so he was blacklisted. And so my father, fearing for the repercussions, decided to leave. This poem is about our first house when we were new immigrants to the United States. It's entitled Diaspora Sonnet, Nesting in a Chimney, and it's about how we found dead birds all over our house. Diaspora Sonnet, Nesting in a Chimney. We said that love proliferated the way chimney swifts burrowed into the old attic insulation. We measured their generosity and their cries increased. We heard them in the day and called them our singers. We could not index them. Their service chiseled through the drywall, and then they'd rush through our living spaces, owning it all. We had rice. We had shirts. We had a roof with a choir. The long gush of the collective full of thirst and want, their calls cut through the ceiling, the gears of a machine that had already dug a long furrow into our seams. So much sonnet talk. This is a sonnet, and you're going to hear. This is one of the sonnets, the rare sonnets where the bones show. I try to hide them as much as possible, but this one I couldn't help. Diaspora sonnet with my father in the off hours. The workers hummed to while away afternoons, and tenants chide their sons to sweep from room to room. Last night's dust motes stirred dreams entangled in wide streaks of light that in the daytime bloom, unsparing, bright, like operatic high notes, pierced and round. The clouds of sleep fill with sound, and father, whistling his tune, leans against his broom to listen to men complain about their lives and each other. Brushstrokes wave away the dirt, losses, tunes so deep within their brains we cannot help but weep as sons push brushes past door after door, locked tight like shut eyes and tombs. Hear their quiet bristles, their heavy score. Thank you. I tried my best to hide sonnets, but I just couldn't help it. This is the last poem from this book that I'm going to read, and then I'm going to close with another poem. Diaspora sonnet, imagining my father on the streets of Marikina, Metro Manila. Marikina is a suburb of Manila, and it's also known for making shoes. That's where the shoemakers are, and my father's father was a shoemaker. Diaspora sonnet, imagining my father on the streets of Marikina, Metro Manila. My father, in his 20s, wears his press suit and carries a small hat box possessing something sensible, something pleased with itself. And through the cacophony of the queued-up industry of men coming home from work, my father is plain. Avenues of dust and motor trikes belch in umbrage to the poem of it. We might have stayed. My plain father, tired of the staccato of each adjectival commute, loamy, worn, blunted, and angry. Plain as the possibility of wonder in a hat box, as sensible as the need to leave the country. He is the center of sense, my father, never hesitating to thread his Windsor knot and polish his one pair of dress shoes. Because he will wear his hat, he will go, and thereafter we will live in his thereafters. Thank you. And I'm going to close again with a poem that proves my youthfulness. So in the 1980s, I thought Prince was a Filipino. So this is, I mean, look, I was looking for anybody who looked like me on TV. And he's definitely not Filipino, but let's just say. This is called Prince Credo. And it's basically made up of lines from Prince songs. So be on the hunt. Prince Credo. I believe in the dearly beloveds, in the temple of the power chord, and for years in the early 80s that Prince was Filipino. I believe in acting my age and not my shoe size, in never being a weekend lover, and in the hard work of a voice stretched into a silk bag filling with silt. I believe in paisley and purple, that a kerchief is manly, that sexy is in the word and in the way that every guitar has its own ghosts to love. I believe that the interval between the chorus and the solo is holy, and that Darling Nikki would happen one day in the ethereal dance of adolescence. Forgive me if I go astray. Forgive me, but I believe in Apollonia, Apollonia, and Apollonia. That the fastest way to heaven was across a graffiti-covered bridge into the neck of a Stratocaster. Believe in the litany of amplifier, in the hiss of feedback, in the bite of the lower lip. Beloveds, I believe in eyeliner and androgyny, and in the sylph-like tease of an upturned collar. I believe in frills and crop tops, in the hard jab of a note between shoulder blades. I believe in smoke and the cherry red of the moon, trying to be quiet when the parents are home. I believe in the gospel of summer and in the car parked sideways. And goddamn, I believe in the party and that it was meant to last. Thank you all.
Oliver de la Paz and Diannely Antigua. And a house full of incredible open mic poets to all of you.